So today I woke up and I had a question to myself. Which killer adept is the hardest to get? So I wanted to look through them all and rank them on how difficult it would be to get them. And remember that to get adept, you need to get 4 kills on a specific killer while using their 3 teachable perks. Today I have 4 categories to put them in. Easy, can be some challenge, pretty difficult, and will take some time, with the last tier being the adepts that will be the most difficult in my opinion. I also try to take into account all MMR, both high and low. I also want to mention really quickly that I don't play about 3 or 4 of the killers in the roster, so I genuinely want your help in the comment section to tell me where you guys think that some of these answers should go. So let's jump right into it. Starting off with the easy tier, first and foremost, I'm pretty sure that the new easiest achievement is the Ghoul. Not only is he really easy to play, but his perks are actually pretty good too, and he is just so easy to learn. His perks aren't useless and can actually get some good value, and since he's still new, there isn't too much counterplay that a lot of people know of. They are pumping out nerfs left and right for him, so if you're trying to get this achievement, you should definitely try and get it as soon as you can, but that still doesn't mean that getting a 4K should be easy enough. In my personal opinion, I think the next easiest is actually Wraith. At any MMR, this killer is relatively easy to play, and even better since he's one of the originals and the mobility is super strong. Yes, the perks are not that good, but since the update in the perk Predator, I really don't think this would be too bad, especially at low MMR. He's easy to play and pretty fun to get those uncloaked speed hits. Next I'm going with Plague. This killer can be really good and some survivors really get caught off guard with a complete counter to healing. Her perks are actually really simple and easy to use, and she's pretty fun to play and can be an absolute noob stomper. For the next one, I'm gonna go with Doctor. I think this is a pretty safe pick for new players, and at higher level this killer can get some serious value. Being able to out people's hiding spots can be really useful, and while his perks may slightly hinder him, I don't think it would be all that bad, especially with Overcharge being his perk. Next I'm going to go with Freddy. Because of the new update this killer got, I think he's actually pretty easy to play. While it may be a little hard to wrap your head around everything that he does for the newer players, the skill floor is pretty high, and every MMR can absolutely stomp on survivors with this killer. Taking into account the perks, they are actually really solid for the comeback to get this achievement in the first place. And for the last pick on the easy category, I'm actually going to go with Clown. I think this is a relatively easy killer to play, but can have a really high skill ceiling, don't get me wrong. The counterplay for this killer can be really hard to learn, and while he doesn't really have any mobility, on a smaller map his perks will definitely carry him with having Bamboozle and Pop Goes the Weasel. Both really solid perks that any MMR should be able to use with ease. Starting off the next tier with Can Be Some Challenge. Personally, I think that Legion is actually an easy adept to get, but this killer is not for everyone, and it can definitely be difficult with easily injuring people, but having trouble trying to actually catch up to them and down them. Although I think at low MMR, this killer is played a lot of the time, and is super easy to understand, and the perks are okay, but nothing special. This should be pretty easy, but you're gonna have that challenge of trying to catch that survivor that you just injured. The next runner up, I'm gonna go with Huntress. While the perks in this killer are basically useless, with only one of them being sort of valuable, this killer can be really easy to learn, and it's super simple. You pick up a hatchet and you throw it, and you need to hit a survivor. And this killer is one of the few killers that you can learn and be really efficient with, I think with console as well. Next on my list is Myers. Now the only reason Myers is so high on the list is because of the whole stock mechanic and how that doesn't fit a lot of people's playstyles, and the fact that he's not too good in the first place, but fortunately, he's this high because you can run any add-ons you want with getting Adept, so he won't be super difficult, and his perks can be good, just completely ignore the obsession. I think next on this list would be Demo. Ultimately, his power is super simple and not too difficult to use, so anyone can easily play him. His perks are just okay, and there's almost no jank to his power, so being able to get this shouldn't be too bad, but it may be some challenge on higher MMRs when the survivors kinda know how to counter you a little bit. Oni, in my opinion, is really beginner friendly, and he feels very satisfying to play, especially with the Oni flicks now returning. His perks aren't anything special, but the character is super fun to play, and even way more console friendly now, which is super welcoming. Because of the survivors know what they are doing, you won't be getting your power too much. I think Bubba, while not fitting everyone's playstyles, wouldn't be that hard in the long run. His perks are really nice and don't hinder him in any way, and at any MMR, you can get some really good value. Just hope that the survivors don't hug the loops really tight, and personally, I'm putting him pretty low on the tier, just because I see him in play a lot. On a basic level, Wesker I don't think is that hard to actually learn. Beginners playing this killer will have a really good time. He's got a fun power, and he's pretty strong as well. The skill ceiling has to be one of the highest in the games for sure, but taking into account all MMR, I don't think it would take too long to get his achievement, especially since he has some comeback perks too. Next on the list I have Chucky, who gets carried by the fact that he is really strong, and the fact that he is small and has a stealth power is one of the best things about him, especially at lower MMR. His power also goes on for a long time, and even people trying to figure him out for the first time can probably learn the power pretty quickly. He also doesn't have too bad of perks either, especially with batteries included just getting its most recent buff. I don't think that Nemesis would be too bad to get this achievement on. He's not the strongest killer, but his perks are pretty good, but he makes up for that in the 1v1 chase. It can be super strong if you are in tier 2 already. Any player picking up Nemesis for the first time I think will immediately love how he plays, or at least that's my personal experience. Definitely let me know in the comments. Another one that you guys are going to have to let me know in the comments is Ghostface. Now, I don't play Ghostface too much, so I'm not 100% sure of where to put him, but I know that he is super beginner friendly, although sometimes the jankiness of the power can get you snapped out even if you think you shouldn't have, or at least that's my personal experience. His perks aren't too bad and have actually gotten buffed recently, so maybe he should be a little lower in the tier. You guys let me know. I'm gonna put Skull Merchant here next, and there's one specific reason. While nobody plays this killer with how disastrous she is, her kit is actually really hard to understand. I have almost 4,000 hours in the game, and I still don't really know what her power actually does. The reason she's so low on the list is the fact that you will most likely be playing against bots with this killer because of how much the survivors will DC, so you should be able to get this probably on your first try. But if the survivors don't DC, then you might have some trouble. Also, side note, I'm not 100% sure if you can get the Adept with the bots. Maybe you guys can tell me in the comments if you know. Last in this category, I'm gonna go with Pig. She's not the best killer, but the gen slowdown that she has naturally built into her kit, I'm putting her here, because she's not too strong, she doesn't have like any mobility. Starting off with this tier, I'm gonna go with Houndmaster. I think this killer is actually pretty difficult to learn. I think the only thing that holds this killer back is the AI of the dog. If it was smoother and actually worked most of the time, I think that it would be pretty easy, but learning how to play around your power isn't something that everyone wants to do. The search command is also really hard to use, at least for me. I'm gonna go with Hag next. I'm only putting her here because she's not played like at all, and a lot of people who have played DVD don't play her. She's not super fun and her playstyle can be boring at times, but she does have some really good perks. But if the survivors know what they are doing, your traps will be harassed the entirety of the game. I think that next on the list is Hillbilly. I think that he can be really hard to learn, and not everyone is able to use the chainsaw sprint effectively, but his mobility is some of the best. Just hope that you don't get an inside map, and this shouldn't actually be too big of a deal. Next up I have Trapper. Yes, he's the default character, but figuring out where to put your traps can be really hard to figure out, especially for all MMR. On the higher end, you have to be more creative with your place trapments, or else they just won't work out for you. Next, I'm gonna go with Pyramid Head. This killer can be really strong and is pretty easy to use, I think. The thing that puts him down here for me is the fact that he's not popular and has incredibly bad add-ons. His perks are nothing special, so people might get turned off from wanting to try to get this Adept in the first place if you can only run about 2 add-ons, and his perks are like okay at best. Dracula I think is next on the list. He's kind of hard to understand and play, especially at low MMR. He's not recommended as a starter character for beginners because he has so much to his base kit. His perks are also very middle of the road, but I still think everyone would have some problems trying to get this Adept just because it can be easy sometimes to dodge, especially the fire. I'm actually gonna go with Twins here next. I think even though this killer doesn't see much play, they're actually way more powerful than even I thought originally, and even new players I don't think will have too much of a struggle. It's a pretty simple power, and after all the buffs, I think this killer isn't actually too hard to use. The most difficult part I think is just having the motivation to play them. Blight is next, and the reason he is so high is because I know he's not a character for everyone. He does have the speed though, so I totally understand if you do want to play this character because I do. I love that speed. And he's got one of the highest skill caps in the game, and all of his add-ons are actually really good. The only thing setting him back from being easy is newer players will have so much more trouble trying to play this character, especially on console. I think he's one of the hardest since you can't really flick with him at all on console. You can just slowly turn your camera, and that's pretty hard to use for console and trying to get hits with. I'm putting Trickster and Deathslinger together with the fact that they play a little similarly and are both ranged, but I think they come with the same problem. The fact that their perks are nothing too special, especially on them, and the main hitter being that if you miss hits with these characters, it is so unbelievably punishing. I don't think they're very beginner friendly like Huntress, and even the best of the best can still struggle with these characters, unless you know the little trick shots that you can get through the little holes in the walls. Next up, I'm going with Unknown. I think this killer is really fun to play and has amazing add-ons, but on the lower level is played not that well. Most new players don't realize that the UVX doesn't do immediate damage and has to explode on the ground, and his 3 perks aren't going to be too much help, but I think overall it'd be a little more difficult, especially for newer people, because they won't know exactly how to use this UVX. Spirit is a hard character to learn, but I don't think it will actually take too long to get Adept on. Her perks are okay, and once you play this killer a couple times, you'll start to be more aware of the grass moving and being able to pinpoint the exact location. I think she's hard to play, but can definitely be played efficiently in all MMR, but of course with time, so that's why she's down here. Personally, I think that Knight is pretty difficult to get this Adept, at least that was for me. The power still feels kind of clunky at some times, and let me know down below if it's just me, and this is me just being completely honest. From what I've experienced personally, this killer does not seem too strong. Yes, he can handle 3-gen amazingly, but I don't know if it's just my games, but I've never gone against a knight that has really known what they are doing too much. But you guys let me know in the comments where he goes, because this is one of the ones where I'm not actually too sure. The next person on my list is Dredge. I think this killer is actually pretty strong, but he gets really messed up by the map that is in play, which is why he's so high. He's really map dependent, and if you get somewhere like Ormond or Red Forest, I think it's just game over at that point. I think anyone can learn pretty quickly, but getting the 4K on this killer can be really challenging at times because of the map specifically. And finally, last in this category, I'm actually going to go with Artist. I think this killer has a syndrome of being really strong, but no one plays her, because they would rather play someone who's way simpler and you get the same results. And because of that, I think it puts her all the way down here. I think new players really struggle with this killer because they don't know about the direct damage birds yet, and I don't blame them. This killer can be really hard to use at times, but has pretty good perks, I'd say. Will take a long time. Starting this tier off, we have Vecna. I think this killer is really complex and is actually way weaker than most people thought originally. His perks are pretty good, but his base kit being really complex make this killer get turned off by a lot of new players, I think. Even I struggled to play him super efficiently because sometimes I'll just be sitting there spamming the spells, but that's definitely just a skill issue on my part. Next up is Onryo. I think this killer is just really weak. All she is basically just an M1 killer, and even when you know what you are doing, TV placements can be really detrimental to you in some ways, and especially against survivors that know to turn off your TVs that are next to the gen, there's just not that much you can do, so I think it would be pretty difficult. Nurse is this high because I really wanted to account for all MMR in the game, and I feel like new players will try Nurse because they hear that she is really good, and then immediately get a 4-man out and get teabagged heavily at the exit gates and then never want to touch her again. This killer is nowhere near beginner friendly, and she takes so long to master, especially with her perks being not too useful. I think newer players will have a lot of struggle, and people who play Nurse will be loving this. Singularity is up here at number 2 because he kind of gets the artist treatment, where people don't play him because his power is way too complex for what he is, and another killer can easily do without any brain power. His perks don't help you in any way, and he's really complex. When I was going for Adept, this took me a while to get because of how you have to place your biopods just right. I think that EMPs are just a little too strong, but that's my opinion. And for my personal number 1 most difficult killer that I think is the hardest to get Adept on is Alien. Now, let me go over some few things first. His perks are actually really strong. Almost all of them you can get a lot of value. His add-ons are okay, and you have a lot of fun choices. However, the actual power and gameplay of this killer can be really frustrating at times. When it comes to it, this killer is really weak. The turrets can absolutely obliterate you, and yet I try so many times to get a 4K on this killer just naturally, and I just can't ever succeed. This killer is insanely weak in my opinion. Just let me know if the comments if any of you have seen an alien get a 4K before, because I don't even remember the last time that I did. When I play Survivor and I go against an alien, they just get destroyed. The power is kind of clunky, and the turrets do so much work for the survivors that I think getting this achievement would be really hard. So there's my list for what I think the hardest Adept achievements are. Please let me know your comments down below, and I'll be happy to read what you guys say, because I'm super interested in where you guys think some of these killers should go. But as always, I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and take care.